I'm 92 years old, and I'm about to tell you the cruelest lie I believed for 67 years. A lie so dangerous that it's not just killing me slowly, it's killing people I love right now, right in front of my eyes. And the worst part? This lie is so widely accepted, so deeply ingrained in our society, that even when I try to warn people, they look at me like I'm senile. They smile politely and keep making the same catastrophic mistake I made. When I was 25 years old, fresh out of the Navy, starting my career as an engineer, someone told me something that would shape the next 6 decades of my life. They said, retirement is about having enough money. Get that right, and everything else will take care of itself. I believed it. God help me. I believed it with every fiber of my being. And I spent the next 42 years proving I was smart enough, disciplined enough, successful enough to win at retirement. I saved 15% of every paycheck. I maximized my 401k. I made conservative investments. I delayed gratification. I worked overtime. I climbed the corporate ladder. I did everything right. And you know what? I won. I retired at 67 with more money than I ever thought I'd have. A beautiful nest egg. Financial security beyond my wildest dreams. I had won the retirement game. So why, at 92, am I telling you it was all a lie? Because 3 months after I retired, I wanted to die. Not because I was sick, not because I ran out of money, but because I had no idea who I was anymore. For 42 years, I was Robert Mitchell, senior project engineer. I was the guy who solved impossible problems. The guy younger engineers came to for advice, the guy who had a purpose every single morning. And then overnight, I became nobody. Just another old man with time to kill and money to spend. They don't tell you this part. They don't tell you that retirement can feel like a death sentence even when you have millions in the bank. They don't tell you that the money you spent decades accumulating becomes meaningless when you wake up every morning with nothing to do and no reason to exist. I see it happening right now to people I love. My younger brother Thomas retired 6 months ago at 79. He worked as a high school math teacher for 53 years. 53 years of shaping young minds, of being Mr. Mitchell, of having students who needed him, who looked up to him, who remembered him decades later. He had a decent pension, not rich, but comfortable. He'd dreamed about retirement for years, talked about all the travel he'd do, all the books he'd read, all the freedom he'd finally have. 6 months in, and I barely recognize him. He's lost weight. His eyes are empty. When I call him, he sounds like he's just going through the motions of being alive. Last week, he told me something that broke my heart. He said, "Rob, I used to think about retirement as the reward for all those years of hard work. Now it feels like I'm serving a life sentence with nothing to do until I die." He has enough money. That's not the problem. The problem is he has no purpose, no identity, no reason to get out of bed beyond the biological imperative to keep breathing. And it's killing him, not quickly, like a heart attack. Slowly, like watching a plant die when you forget to water it. He's withering, fading, disappearing, and there's nothing I can do except watch and remember that I felt exactly the same way 25 years ago. Here's what nobody tells you about retirement. Money solves one problem and one problem only. It means you don't have to worry about paying your bills. That's it. It doesn't give you purpose. It doesn't give you identity. It doesn't give you a reason to exist. It doesn't make you happy. And for some people, the kind of people who built their entire identity around their work, which describes most successful people, retirement without purpose is a slow death. I know what you're thinking, but you had hobbies, right? Friends? Family? Yes, I had all of that, and none of it filled the void. Because here's the thing they don't tell you. Hobbies are what you do with your spare time. But when all your time is spare time, hobbies become just another way to kill hours until you die. I took up woodworking, joined a golf league, volunteered at the library, traveled with my wife, and every single activity felt hollow because none of it mattered. None of it gave me the feeling I used to get when I solved a complex engineering problem, when I mentored a young engineer, when I contributed something meaningful to the world. My wife, Carol, she saw what was happening to me. She'd find me sitting in my workshop, staring at a half-finished project, not even pretending to work on it. She'd ask what was wrong, and I couldn't explain it without sounding ungrateful. How do you tell someone who sacrificed alongside you for 42 years that having everything you worked for feels like nothing? 3 years into retirement, I ended up in therapy. At 70, I was sitting in a psychologist's office trying to explain why I felt worthless despite having everything society said would make me happy. And that's when I learned the cruelest truth. I had optimized for the wrong variable my entire life. I spent 42 years optimizing for financial security in retirement, when I should have been optimizing for purpose in retirement. The lie isn't just that retirement is about money. The lie is that retirement is an ending, a finish line, a reward for decades of hard work where you finally get to relax and enjoy life. But here's what I learned at 70. Retirement isn't an ending. It's a transition. And if you don't transition to something meaningful, something purposeful, something that gives you a reason to exist beyond consuming the resources you accumulated, you will suffer. The money will sit in your bank account while you slowly die inside. I've watched it happen to dozens of people, successful people, smart people, people who did everything society told them to do. They retired with financial security, and within 5 years, they were either dead or wished they were. Not because they were sick, because they were purposeless. My friend Harold retired at 68 with over $2 million. Brilliant man, chemical engineer, patents in his name, respected in his field. 2 years after retirement, his wife found him in the garage with the car running. He left a note that said, "I don't know how to just exist. I only knew how to contribute." He survived, but something in him died that day anyway. Another friend, Gene, lasted 3 years before his body just started shutting down. Doctors couldn't find anything specifically wrong. He just deteriorated, lost interest in food, lost interest in everything. His daughter told me he'd say things like, "I'm just waiting now. I don't know what for, but I'm just waiting." He died at 71, not from disease, from purposelessness. I'm telling you this because I see people your age making the same mistake I made. I see you grinding, sacrificing, building your retirement accounts, planning for financial security, and I'm watching you ignore the far more important question: who will you be when you're no longer defined by your career? What will give your life meaning when the paycheck stops and the title disappears? These aren't soft, philosophical questions. These are life and death questions. Because I'm telling you from experience, you can have all the money in the world and still feel like your life is over the moment you retire. Here's what saved me. At 73, broken and hollow, I started teaching, not for money, not for status, but because I realized I needed to contribute. I needed to matter. I volunteered at a community college teaching basic engineering principles to adults returning to school, and something in me came back to life. Suddenly, I had a reason to wake up, students who needed me, problems to solve, a purpose beyond killing time until death. The money in my retirement account didn't change, but everything else did. I stopped dying and started living again. That's when I understood the cruel irony. All those years I spent optimizing for financial retirement, I should have spent at least some time optimizing for purposeful retirement. I should have developed an identity beyond my job title. I should have built a life that would survive the transition from employed to retired. I should have asked myself, what will make me feel like I matter when I'm no longer an engineer? But nobody tells you to ask that question. They just tell you to save 15% and max out your 401k. And if you're lucky enough to do that successfully, you retire with plenty of money and no idea what to do with the remaining years of your life. My brother Thomas, the one I told you about earlier, I finally convinced him to start tutoring at-risk kids in math. He resisted at first, said he was done with teaching, done with that chapter of his life. But I begged him to try it, just once. He went. And when he came back, I saw something in his eyes I hadn't seen in months. Life. Purpose. He told me about this kid who'd been failing algebra, who everyone had written off, and how something clicked when Thomas explained it a different way. The kid's face just lit up, Rob. For the first time in 6 months, I felt like I mattered again. He's been going twice a week ever since. He still has hard days. The transition is brutal, but he's not dying anymore. He's living. I'm 92 years old. I've been retired for 25 years, and I'm still here, still contributing, still teaching, still mattering. Not because I have money, because I have purpose. And I see people around me, people younger than my children, retiring with comfortable nest eggs and dying within 5 years because nobody told them the truth. Nobody told them that the hardest part of retirement isn't financial. It's existential. It's waking up every morning and answering the question, why am I here? What's the point of another day? If you take away nothing else from this, hear this. Start building your post-retirement identity now, not 5 years before you retire. Now, find something that will give you purpose beyond a paycheck. Develop an identity beyond your job title. Build relationships that will survive when you're no longer defined by your career. Because I'm telling you, and I'm watching it happen to people I love right now, you can have all the money you need and still die a slow death of meaninglessness. The cruelest retirement lie is that it's about having enough money. It's not. It's about having enough purpose. And unlike money, purpose can't be accumulated in an account. It has to be built, cultivated, discovered, and maintained. And if you wait until you retire to start that work, you've already lost 25 years of your life. Don't learn this at 70 like I did. Don't watch yourself die slowly like my friends did. Don't become another cautionary tale of someone who won at retirement savings and lost at retirement living. The clock is ticking, and the retirement you're building right now might have plenty of money and no reason to exist. Fix that while you still can.